Then, I came to the most famous war dragon security company. In my previous life, a second-generation rich guy spent $2 billion to build a top-level safe house. As a result, that rich guy directly became the emperor in the apocalypse. At this time, a business manager came over and asked if I needed any help. I quickly walked up and expressed my idea, indicating that I wanted to build a safe house for the apocalypse. Hearing this, the business manager didn't say much and directly presented me with several plans for me to choose from. However, I was not satisfied with the plans above. Then I stated that the house should be reinforced with aviation materials, the balcony glass should use the highest strength bulletproof glass, and add an air filtration system and a 360-degree no blind spot monitoring system. The front door should be made of the same material as the bank's anti-theft door, and I asked the manager to find a way to get some guns. After seeing my requirements, the business manager was surprised. With these renovations and some weapons, this would be a fortress. The final plan required $8 million. After I paid the deposit, I asked them to start work immediately and said that the balance would be paid within 3 months. Next, I need to get some weapons for self-defense. I called the owner of a hunting club I know and got a few sets of crossbows as weapons from him. Just then, the 500 tables of banquet I ordered also arrived in batches by truck. This attracted quite a few people from the neighborhood. This is the delivery truck from a 5-star hotel. These several trucks of food would cost at least $1 million or so. After a while, the food for 500 tables filled my entire house. Without wasting any words, I put them all into the otherworldly space. With all these delicious foods, plus the ingredients I had ordered before, I basically don't have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of my life. The next day, the security company's workers came to start building the safe house. This scene attracted quite a few neighbors' attention, who ridiculed me, asking if I had taken the wrong medication, but I didn't care. When the end comes, you'll know who the real joke is. Then I found Manager Joe from the company, and I bought a part of the warehouse's supplies at twice the market price. Next is to transport these things home little by little. My recent hoarding activities also attracted the attention of Fan Yuqing. She then asked if something was going to happen recently, even saying that she had been thinking about me lately. As for this bitch's fake concern, I didn't want to respond at all. This really pissed Fan Yuqing off. Zhang Yi, this bootlicker, actually dares to ignore me, but she was still curious about my sudden hoarding. However, her best friend just scoffed. If something big is happening, the country will definitely notify us. Just try your best to catch Zhang Yi, this bootlicker. Half a month later, my safe house was successfully built. In order to ensure the employer's safety, the manager also installed a surveillance system on each floor. I was very satisfied with this. Next is to wait for my last batch of supplies to arrive. Soon, several trucks of drinking water arrived in succession. At this time, Uncle Yu from the same neighborhood looked curious. Little Jean, what are you doing with all these barrels of water? Thinking that Uncle Yu was one of the few good people in my past life, I whispered, the weather this year is going to be very unusual. It's best to stock up on some supplies to prevent extreme cold as soon as possible. Upon hearing this, Uncle Yu was half skeptical, but seeing the serious look on my face, he believed it. In the following period, I tried my best to exchange all the money in my hands for various supplies. 3 days before the advent of the extreme cold end days, I specifically went back to the warehouse and invited all my colleagues for a cup of milk tea. After they drank it, everyone fainted. In order to move the entire Walmart warehouse with peace of mind, I had already put sleeping pills in the milk tea in advance. After shutting down the surveillance equipment, I went to the warehouse and immediately put all the rows of goods into the otherworldly space. With the help of the otherworldly space, I quickly emptied the entire warehouse. Just then, a box in the corner caught my attention. When I opened it, it was the cold-resistant tech product that was stocked a few days ago. It was said to be able to withstand temperatures of -100 degrees. With these supplies, even if facing the coldest ice age, I have nothing to fear. To prevent exposure, I also directly gave myself a dose of sleeping water and then lay down on my colleague and fell asleep. 2.5 hours later, I was awakened by my colleague. Boss, something crazy has happened. Our warehouse has been emptied. Hearing this, I pretended to be surprised and jumped up. What the hell? Then, looking at the empty warehouse, I pretended to be upset and said, what happened? How are all the supplies in the warehouse gone? At this time, the manager called, inquiring about the loss of the warehouse supplies. Knowing that the whole warehouse was emptied all at once, the manager immediately cursed. How is this possible? Are you a mole and stealing for yourself? I gave an awkward smile. Manager, what do you take me for? Besides, I'm not that capable. I think we better report to the higher department as soon as possible, so as not to delay the investigation time. After hanging up the phone, I quickly comforted my colleagues. Everyone, don't be afraid. We who are upright are not afraid of crooked shadows. Soon, all the colleagues on duty and I were called to the police station for questioning, but nothing could be found out after the questioning. Then the cop told us not to leave Tianhai City rashly, in order to cooperate with the follow-up investigation. Soon this incident made the news in Tianhai City. No one could believe that hundreds of square meters of supplies disappeared without a trace in less than 3 hours. Just then, it suddenly started snowing heavily heavily in the sky. I knew this was a prelude to the extreme cold, so I hurried home. 3 days later, the shockwave from a supernova explosion swept across the globe. This brought about a devastating disaster to the entire planet. The temperature began to plummet overnight. Looking at the heavy snow outside the window, I remained calm. What was destined to come